Okay, where were we? Oh, the King's Indian. Wait a moment, I think we already had this part. Okay, good. What now? As you already know, the castle setup for our king is finished, but what do we do in the middle game? Our opponent is going to castle. To just start, we have a lot of options what to do now, and we are going to complete every of these options. First up, we are developing our bishop to g4, not only developing a piece, but also pinning our opponent's knight. White might think now that they could just kick out our bishop, but that's exactly what we are waiting for. We trade our bishop, and if he possesses something called a brain, he will retake with his queen. Let's look at our other plans. Next, we're going to jump to c6 with the knight, which is the first part of preparing a pawn push to e5. He develops, and we bring our second knight to d7. After that, we stick to the plan pushing our e-pawn to e5 and offering a trade in the center that we would win if our opponent accepts. Because of that, the chance is higher that your opponent will also push his pawn. We'll just move our knight away, but not back into our defense line, rather attacking the opponent's bishop, which we will capture either way because he's surrounded by his own pawns. White, leaving their bishop to die, jumps with his knight closer to our king, preparing future attacks and rearranging their pieces. And well, we will just take that bishop and enjoy our position. White recaptures, and now we're going to use one of the most important tactics in the King's Indian defense: pawn breaks. Our c-pawn is going to attack their d5 pawn, and we will be trying to destroy their pawn chain. Most of the time the pawn retakes, and of course will also retake. From now on, we're almost finished. He moves his rook on the f-file to the c-file, which makes sense considering it's in semi-open file. Pushing our pawn will do the trick, and there you have it. You got a nice position, and now you just got to win the game. Stockfish says it's an equal position, but well, winning the endgame is your job. Time to look at a different possible position. Here we are again, and now our opponent plays knight to c3, actually one of the main moves against the King's Indian or the Perk defense. Again, we'll play g6, and he develops his bishop. We put once again our bishop on g7, but then our opponent reveals his plans. He plays queen d2 just to trade his bishop in exchange for our dark squared bishop, which is actually no problem. Just don't take it right away. Now you got a queen there. Just move your c-pawn up to get your queen out soon, and if he moves his bishop to h6 again, just castle and capture his bishop if he trades. He develops his knight, and now I've got a question for you. Which piece should you develop next? Is it answer A, B, C, or D? Yes, of course, answer D is right. We develop or bishop, then later our knight. And it's just about time for our opponent to castle. He castles, which makes sense, and because of that, we pushed c6. He unpins his knight, and now we bring out our knight. Your opponent might try to kick of our bishop again, but just as I said, trade the bishop for the knight. We push our e-pawn and our opponent his f-pawn to undouble them, but hey, a big trade in the center might follow. But our position is great. We got a lot of attacking possibilities on the queen's side and active play. Just for you to know, you don't have to remember all of this. Just remember these three moves and don't blunder. In the middle game, you should firstly bring out your bishop and pin your opponent's knight. Then secondly, bring out your knight to any good developing squares. And of course, at last, try pushing your e-pawn to e5. I hope this video was helpful, and don't get confused by the King's Indian. You're the only king.